After I woke up the next day, I left the guest room feeling awful. I got a hint of a strange odor I couldn't quite place until I left the guest bedroom, that is. I could hear some commotion, and it sounded like more than just the few that were there when I went to sleep. I didn't think they'd actually do this. I figured I would end up going alone and dying the moment I tried something, but there was a good 8 entities or so, including Jeff, Terry, and Jacob, and one I recognized as the doctor. So that's 4 down that I knew for certain. The other 4, though, well, I didn't recognize any of them. One looked like a 7-foot-tall, buff white dude with blonde surfer hair. The only clothing he had on was a bright red Speedo that I tried to avoid looking at. Another looked like a pretty average skinwalker. One thing was just kind of standing around. I couldn't give you a physical description of it. The only reason why is because anytime I looked away from him, my memory just came up a blur. Like when you turn a camera right as you take a picture. But it wouldn't affect anything else in my memory, just the figure. Lastly, the last thing, I don't even know how to describe her. It's not like with the other things, she was just so beautiful. I don't think I could capture her beauty with words, but I'm gonna try regardless. Think of the most beautiful woman you can imagine. Not sexy, beautiful. Then just keep trying to make her more beautiful until you can't anymore. Once you've reached the peak of imaginable beauty, go just one above that and I think you got it. I think it was natural, but I couldn't tell you if it's a perception thing or not. As I got lost in the supernatural beauty of the woman, a voice whispered in my ear. "What are you looking at?" It was Jeff. I jumped a little, staring out. Nothing. What are you looking at? Why is it so hot in here? He chuckled. "Look, I was talking to Terry last night. He convinced me to help get your revenge arc going." Jeff cut me off. "Those were his exact words. Fucking weeb." Jeff responded with a raspy disappointment in his voice. "What about your job? Murder may be a messed up profession and hobby, but won't it be hard for you?" I asked. "I've killed a lot of people, completed a lot of contracts, and made a lot of money. I gotta be honest, I don't even have a whole lot of incentive to do it anymore. For a while there, it was exhilarating, not knowing how the contract would end, with me on a pike or their head in my bag. But people can only go so strong. I hit a limit, and eventually I was doing the same old contracts day in and day out. Murder just isn't a sufficient high anymore. Honestly, I've been considering quitting for a while now. You and Terry are reason enough to put an end to all this, even if it's only temporary." "Terry and I?" I asked under my breath. "What was that?" "Oh, I was just gonna ask who all these people are since you brought up killing," I responded. "These guys and girls are my friends, except the doctor and an unmentionable still on his way. The man in the Speedo's name is Chad. He isn't some normal human. He's one of the strongest guys I know. Hell, he'd even beat Chuck Norris on the ropes. The guy you can't remember? His name's Smudge, for obvious reasons. He's pretty great at illusion stuff. That skinwalker over there, her name's Rachel." I cut him off. Wait. There are female skinwalkers?" "Yeah, why wouldn't there be?" "Just doesn't sound quite right, I guess." He continued. "Well, men tend to have more aggressive personalities by nature, which is why male skinwalkers are the most common. They're the most likely to fall prey to darkness. But as I was saying, she may appear to you to be a normal skinwalker, but she's what you may call an alchemist. She's great with poisons and all that. Finally, I saved the best for last. I'm sure you've noticed that amazingly beautiful woman by now." He made a facial expression like he was trying to wink at me. Guess it's hard to wink without eyelids. "Her name is Megami. She's practically a siren with some terrifying abilities. Also, take it from me," he hushed into a whisper, "don't go trying anything with her. It won't go well." "Is that all?" I asked, kind of surprised that this was all we had. Even if one more guy was showing up, it wouldn't make all that much of a difference. By the sounds of it, this was going to be a job for an army of paranormal shit. Then there would be some huge fight scene where I'd end up finding out I had some kind of special ability hidden away the whole time. Then everyone would cheer, going, "Hooray for Joseph," something like that. I swear, whenever I talk to you or Terry about a battle, you guys get all giddy like a couple of geeks who just met Stan Lee at Comic-Con. Terry came around the corner out of the kitchen. I heard my name. What were you saying about me this time? Jeff answered before I could get anything out. I was talking about you and Joseph. Anytime fighting is brought up, you two geek the fuck out. Speaking of fighting, I said, causing Jeff to sigh, you said something about an unmentionable still on his way? Terry answered for him. Yeah, he's likely the strongest one out of everyone here, too. What, is he going to be some ancient knight clad in shining armor? I was cut off by the door swinging in and slamming against the wall. The only issue with that is the hinges were supposed to open the door halfway, and the other were supposed to open the other way. What stood in the doorway, I shit you not, was the Headless Horseman. From all those old tales of a man with no head riding a horse into the night? Yeah, the Headless Horseman. He was carrying what I assumed to be his own head in his left arm. I assume this for two reasons. The main one being it was wearing a black helmet that matched the exact color of his armor. Secondly, there was no blood anywhere on his armor, and the head wasn't leaking any fluids. I was the only one to say anything at first. What the actual fuck? Okay, I can handle all this paranormal shit from relatively recent years being real. Even Chad, I can handle. But the headless The man responded in an unexpectedly deep, inhuman, old British accent that could have been coming from the head of, or the bit of the neck still attached to the body. Who's to say?
If you call me the Headless Horseman,
he mocked,
I will kill you. My name is Abraham.
But wait, Abraham, why are you wearing armor? You died in the Revolutionary War, didn't you? I inquired. He started cackling.
No. I'm not some poor boy who lost his head in a war. I'm one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
I could feel my bladder fill up practically instantaneously. But Terry interjected before it was too late. He's just insecure about losing his head in the war. He's fucking with you. He's the normal Headless Horseman. Then, out of nowhere, Abraham's voice changed to a much more normal, old-timey British accent. Oh, come on, Terry. Why wouldn't you just allow me to mess with the kid for a little while longer? It sounded more like a rhetorical question than a legitimate one. Anyway, to answer your question, I have a range of attire, from commoner clothing to that of a royal knight of the highest order. When Terry informed me that he required assistance in taking down a corrupt order, I knew I must do it. For the United States of America. He was definitely cocky, that's for sure. Alright then, we ready to rock and roll or what? But I barely got my question out before Megami gave me a condescending look. Oh, the little mortal wants to play with the grown-ups. How precious. Chad spoke up in a rather expected surfer bro voice. Dude, I know your wife was like killed by these guys, but I think you're totally just gonna hold us back. Then the doctor joined in with his own jab. I mean, his skin was pierced by Rake's gums. It's far too fragile for a mission like this. Everyone but Smudge, Terry, and Jeff were laughing. Even Abraham was practically rolling on the ground. After about a minute had passed, they were still tossing insults around, and their laughter just kept growing. But soon after, I began to hear a static in my ears as the lights began flickering. I looked over at Terry and saw that he had grown exponentially. He was like 10 feet tall now. It looked like he had gotten much skinnier, and what I assumed to be all of his tentacles were sticking out of his back. Then he shouted in a much less human voice, "Silence!" Everyone calmed down at the sight and sound. After a few moments and chill going down my spine, everything went back to normal. Though Terry was still taller than before. He cleared his... I guess his throat? His voice was relatively normal now. Well, now that I have your attention, I would like to explain to all of you why exactly Joseph is coming with. Hold all questions till the end. He added once he saw Chad raise his hand like he was the teacher's pet or something. I know. He's mortal. Why would we let him go in there with no protection? The answer's quite simple, really. We aren't. He'll be protected with spare armor Abraham brought, right? He turned to Abraham, who proceeded to run outside to get what I assumed was armor for me. I also requested Jeff get him some weapons. As he said that, Jeff handed me a box containing a few items. Now, I am not a gun guy by any stretch of the imagination. I know how guns work. I've shot one a few times before. I've played first-person shooters, but I have no idea what kind of pistol it was. It might have been a Glock. It might have been something completely different. Who's to say? There were an additional 2 mags and a box of 30 rounds. Then the pride and joy. Old reliable, if you will. A wide, 8-inch long, silvery-looking dagger. It was one of the most beautifully crafted weapons I had ever seen. I used to have a buddy who was really into swordsmithing, and I thought he was pretty good, but whoever made this must have been a master. In the box was some sort of certification card too, but I didn't read it. Terry continued. The weapons themselves are made of a silver alloy, made to repel paranormal creatures and entities. Abraham came back in with a chainmail vest. Just a chainmail vest, no shield, no armor to protect my forearms, just a vest. Terry looked at him with a blank glare that could have only meant, really? That's it? Then started again. While this may not look like much, it should get him through everything. Now would be a good time to ask questions if you still want to know anything. Chad immediately raised his hand again. I don't mean to be like that guy, but why is he getting all this stuff to help us? So his wife died, big deal. Why should we have to hold his hand through all of this? It totally blows. Smudge answered him in a deep, surreal, spine-chilling voice. Do you think that your dumb remarks are useful in this current situation? He lost his wife due to a contract placed on her by a corrupt organization. He chose not to blame the killer, but the organization. In my eyes, that is all the reason the boy should need to fight alongside us. Chad backed off after that. Now, are there any other questions? Or can we get ready now? No one else spoke up? All right then. I think it's about time we get started. Terry finished. I pulled him aside shortly after. Hey, so how exactly am I going to manage to keep up with all you guys? This isn't exactly adding up for me. I get a chainmail vest and some silver weapons and you expect me to actually be able to help? He just looked at me and said, if worse comes to worse, just use those karate lessons. Then he turned away, giving a nod like he was winking or something. Has he been reading my posts? I mean, I could ask how he could even look at a screen, but he watches TV and plays games, so I guess it makes sense. But when did Slendy become a Reddit user? Whatever. I had bigger issues than Terry reading my posts at the time. Like a giant paranormal battle that was about to go down like some kind of paranormal turf war.